What is going on, everybody? It's Jackson and Steven from Dinger Dudes, and today we have a very special interview with Erik Ostberg, current Milwaukee Milkmen catcher and former Rays catcher. Erik, how's your summer going? How's the season going? And thank you for taking time to join.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's been a fun year. I've been enjoying this league with the Milkmen, the American Association. You know, it, I was obviously with the Rays for 7 years, and then this is my first season outside of the Rays, and it's been it's been an interesting experience, and I've actually learned a ton. I've been really enjoying it. Been playing every day, so we're having a really good year, and it's all good.
You did mention you played for the Tampa Bay Rays. I know you were drafted in 2017. I just wanted to know from a player's standpoint, what was it like getting that call saying you were drafted from the Rays?
Yeah, it's actually pretty stressful. It was actually pretty stressful, man. I mean, because I was watching the draft. I don't know how much you dug into my story, but I was like a top 200 Baseball America prospect. I was actually leading the country in hitting in Division I baseball my junior year before I had a little like collision at the plate, which I partially tore my PCL 3 months before the draft, and it was a pain getting all the medical stuff out. And I thought I was going to go, in the top six-ish rounds. The draft is 3 days. Now it's 2 days, I believe. But back when I got drafted, it was 3 days. And after that day two, when we had got a couple calls from a couple teams, that ended up not drafting me, I'd gotten a call from multiple teams saying like, "Hey, we're gonna pick you, congratulations," and then just not pick me, and then when their pick came up. So I actually had no idea the Rays were gonna draft me in the 13th round, and I was watching the draft, and they just called my name, So, but obviously, an amazing moment, top to bottom. Still remember it. Still can remember the weather and the who was there and everything about it. So definitely miss those days for sure.
Hey, Eric. So I just wanted to get into some of the players that you admired growing up and what kind of got you into the baseball space in the first place. Because we all have players that we just admired and that we kind of modeled like our game after when we played the game. So I wanted to know who is that player for you?
It's tough to say. I mean, I'm from Massachusetts. My dad, it was a long time baseball guy, and we really bonded over baseball. And my dad was, not he played at Division III baseball, and was a coach at Amherst College for a little bit, and just was a really good teacher of the game. And we would always watch the Red Sox at 7 o'clock, as that was the game that was on TV, on local TV, where I'm from. And so I spent a lot of time in my formative years, watching those like 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005 Red Sox teams. Those are probably my prime years of being a fan of baseball, because once you sort of get into the business of baseball, I'm just not a fan anymore. So the magic is gone. I've seen the back alleys of baseball, man. So. But I would definitely say back in the day, man, like I love Manny Ramirez, like just like the tempo at the plate, and then like I love David Ross. It's a random name to bring up just because of the way he handled himself on the field, as a leader. And I remember being excited about Orlando Cabrera, like very random name there. Just guys that like were on TV that I could be watching, and there was something about everybody, Trot Nixon, and I used to love like Justin Morneau and, oh man, Matt Holliday. I mean, I could go on. These are back in my formative baseball years, but that was the heyday of baseball, in my opinion.
I said Matt Holliday. We actually had an interview with Danny Espinosa, and he was talking all about playing the Cardinals. You're just making me reminisce on the prime Cardinals days. This guy likes to
Yeah.
hate on me about it. Oh, it's rough.
No, Matt Holliday, man, he's a goat. He's one of the best hitters of all time. It doesn't really get talked about for sure.
Mm. But going through your career in the minor league system, what was the biggest challenge you faced, and also what was your greatest accomplishment in your opinion?
Man, I'll tell you, man, it's the minor leagues is it's not what you people think it is, man. And there's a lot of corrupt things about the business of baseball. I don't want to say that I'm bitter about baseball or angry per se, but I'm definitely still I've got a chip on my shoulder. I'm pretty motivated to keep going and to make some stuff happen. I mean, the biggest challenge I would say was pretty much my entire 7 years. I mean, I was never a guy that got to play every day with the Rays. I was a guy that, I had some status coming out of college, but I had 13th round draft capital, and you guys are obviously big baseball guys. When you watch the draft and you know about those top 3 round picks, and you're always watching those minor league box scores to see how those prospects are doing. But if that prospect is struggling, he's still going to be rolling out onto the field every day because they have an investment in that guy. They have significant draft capital behind them. They've invested resources into his development. And usually there's an opportunity cost for that guy to get on the field and to figure it out. And usually the opportunity cost of that guy playing is a guy like myself, a college draft pick or another guy. And that was really challenging for me in the minors, my early years, because like I would have a good game, right? I'd go like 2 for 4 with a homer, and then I just like wouldn't play the next day, right? And then I'd be like, oh, I'll play the next day, wouldn't play, and it became. I realized over time that it really wasn't about, who was the best player at that moment in time and who was producing in that moment of time. It was really about, this is our projection in developing X guy. Which took me a while to figure out. And I was never really used to that in the baseball world. And so that was a massive challenge. I mean, that was many years of, just frustrated at multiple hotels all over the country, like going, have a good game, got to wait 4 days to play again. And I was pretty much doing that all through Double-A. I played pretty much at every level in the minor leagues. Even before the constriction and before all the teams got cut, I was all over the place, and I'd seen every level. And honestly, man, like I had to figure out over time how to provide value in other ways, because it didn't matter if I hit 1,000 that previous week or if I was hitting 600 on the month. Like my days were my days, and it's scheduled out ahead of time, and you just got to figure out how to provide value in your role. So that's hard, man. And you can ask anybody that's been in the minors that, or who didn't really get that shot in the big leagues. Like that's a very common story. So as far as highs, I mean, I've had a lot of highs. 2018, I was an all-star in the Penn League. That was awesome. I hit a walk-off grand slam in Double-A last year, which was definitely like an unbelievable moment for me that I still think about all the time. 2021, we won a high A championship. We were the best team in minor league baseball, and we had a lot of studs on that team, and, had a great year, had, 12 homers, 800 OPS, and just the most fun I've ever had playing baseball in 2021. And so there's been a lot of good moments, man. Obviously still got a lot of great friends too from the Rays as well.
Now, that's really cool to get that perspective from somebody that's been in the minors and just how the behind the scenes stuff kind of works.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to get into is the changes in the game that we're seeing with Major League Baseball and also with the minors. I was actually just went to a minors game not too long ago, and I didn't realize that one of the rules is that you can challenge a strike call and a ball call now in a minor league game.
I think it's a AAA only. Yeah, I think AAA, right?
AAA.
Yeah.
I feel, but yeah, and I wanted to get your perspective and just like your opinion on all these changes that we're seeing. I mean, we're seeing the pitch clock happen. We're seeing a limit on throwovers to first base, stepping off of the rubber. Are you a fan of all these changes that are being implemented in the game?
Yeah, so some of them I am. I think so. I like the pitch clock a lot. The pitch clock keeps a good pace and cadence to the game, and as a guy that's in the game and I'm catching or I'm at first base, like I like rhythm, you know what I mean? And we want to get the pitchers into rhythm. And so as a player, I do really like it because it encourages kind of a good cadence to the game. And there's enough time to do everything that you need to do. And so I think that's fantastic. I think, I think the throwover rule is a little bit annoying at times. I mean, we have it in this league as well, just because I think it can get manipulated a good amount. And they want to do it to try to encourage more running and try to encourage more action on the bases and stuff. So I do understand that. But definitely that can be a little frustrating. Like I wish it was maybe 3 instead of 2, because it's you got to be really strategic about when you use them, and guys can like bait guys into throwing over, and then when you use your two, the guy can take a huge lead and then
Yeah.
basically steal the base anyway, and the catcher doesn't really have a chance. So I don't really get like I get that you're trying to encourage a steal, a play, maybe more guys in scoring position to score more runs. Um, but that's okay. That one's okay. I think the three batter minimum, right? Like that's all right. You know what I mean? Like again, it's just a different type of strategy. I am frustrated with that because it kind of eliminates a bullpen role for a lot of guys. Like your lefty specialist is not as much valued as he maybe once was, and it kind of reevaluates how teams are looking at bullpen arms, knowing you have to face three guys, and it's sort of cutting out a good amount of archetypes as pitchers, and you're kind of bringing back in more power pitchers per se, like guys that have a certain archetype, and usually that's a carry fastball that's a little bit harder. It's sort of trending back into that direction. I think but overall, I think the MLB is so bad at marketing. They're so bad at like marketing the players. They don't do a good job of bringing fans in, keeping them engaged. These rules themselves are not going to change anything. I think that the challenging stuff is great. It's very NFL-esque. Like, and the NFL is the best league in the country right now. So, I think the challenge stuff's awesome. But again, it's just it's not big enough to tip the scales to make up for the fact that the MLB is so out of touch with how people look at players, how they market their athletes.
I do want to talk about your time in Milwaukee, though. But after you left the minor leagues, you transitioned over to independent ball in the American Association. What is the atmosphere like playing in Milwaukee compared to playing in the minor?
Actually, it's the same, and it's the same. There's just as many fans. I mean, I was in Montgomery, Alabama for basically 2.5, 3 years, and there were some games where we'd have nobody there. Milwaukee, man, they do a great job with the fans, and honestly, every minor league city is different. It's all about the city. It's all about how the team is marketed. It's all about the promotions, and so it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the level of play. Believe it or not, it's really more about like the stadium, the amenities. Is it fun to go to? And that really is the driver of fans. So this league has been awesome. I mean, there's been fans everywhere we've played, and I've really seen no difference between an affiliate game and here. I certainly don't believe my time in affiliate baseball is over. I'm having a good year. I'm still talking. My agent is still talking to teams. Like I was the skin of my teeth away from going to spring training this year. So I'm using this as kind of a stepping stone to something else, whether that's going to be Mexico. We were talking to some Mexican teams yesterday, actually, or if that's going to be, back with an affiliate next season. But I do believe, I'll be somewhere next year, but this has been a really good stepping stone for me because I've been able to play every day. And when you have fans in the stands, it just makes those games more fun. It gives you a little bit more pep in your step.
Well, we're definitely rooting for you and hoping that you're going to be able to get back to that place eventually, whether it's spring training and finding a ball club that wants to use your talents. The last thing that I wanted to talk to you about is your position at catching, and you also played a little bit first base, but I wanted to focus on the catcher position. Just in your general opinion, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of catchers?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't, again, so you're talking to somebody that really, I've not watched a baseball game since like before college. It's just crazy because I just don't ever have time to watch. You know what I mean? Like I'm playing myself at night and I don't really have time. I mean, I see the highlights and stuff, but for me, so I'm putting David Ross on there because that's from a personal thing, just the attributes that I would want to have as a player, right? I think he had. And then like obviously like you got to put like Yadier Molina on there, right? Like because from just like a statistical standpoint, longevity standpoint, impact on the game, and then like I'll put. Hmm, like the obvious one is like Buster Posey, right? Like it's an obvious one as far as like Mount Rushmore. But I'm trying to think of like guys that I like guys that I like exemplify. Like like I would even give a shout out to like Higashioka with the Yankees, like just in like the way that he receives, and receiving has always been the tool that I have to work on the most. And he's kind of unorthodox in his setup, and but just the way that his glove works is like very different than other catchers, and he's extremely talented at how he moves the baseball, and his pocket presence and just his pocket accuracy is like astounding. And he's not a huge name, but that's just a guy that I find myself watching clips of. How is he getting beneath the ball? And how is he moving it, and like just timing, tempo. He's just phenomenal. All those things.
I did want to ask a final question before we wrap up this interview. During your career, I'm pretty sure you've worn many different uniforms, many different hats. Do you have a favorite uniform or hat that you worn during your career?
Yeah, I think it's got to be. I have so much Montgomery Biscuit stuff, and that's like a
Mm.
pretty popular logo and team. I loved our Biscuits jerseys, man. Like our home jerseys with the white and yellow piping and just yellow lettering were just super clean. And I have my jersey at home, and I see it every day, which is like why I think it's just so clean. And we had so many sick like alternate hats, and the Montgomery Biscuits logo is, you see a lot of like country artists like wearing that hat. Like I think the last one was who was it? Who was it? Oh, it's on their Instagram. If you go to the Biscuits Instagram, you can see Riley Green, maybe. Maybe if you go to the Biscuits Instagram, you'll see. I think Luke Combs was rocking some Biscuit stuff. Like it's just they got like a nice, just a nice look, nice logo. So I definitely say that stuff. I played with the Bowling Green Hot Rods, and our Thursday jerseys for beer night were like bootleggers jerseys, and we had this like brown hat with like gold brim, which was a bootlegger hat, and that one's pretty sweet too. You could look that one up if you want as well, but I'd say those.
I'm not a Montgomery. Well, I'm not a Tampa Bay Rays fan, but with you saying that about the Montgomery Biscuits uniforms and hats, I'm gonna have to buy myself one on the
Yeah,
whatever
there's a
shop they
lot of
have that.
variations, of those, bro. I promise you.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this interview, man. This will drop on YouTube a little bit later today, but I hope your season goes well, and thank you so much for taking time to join the podcast.
Hey man, appreciate it. Love talking ball.